What's up, everybody? My name is Kevin, and last night I watched Supergirl 1984 in honor of the new Supergirl movie coming out this week. I bet none of you guys have heard of this movie before now, and I'll tell you, I hadn't heard of it either, but let me just say, this is a fever dream of a movie. I'm going to go into the good and the bad of this movie, and we're going to see how I landed on this. But if you guys are interested in this type of content, please subscribe and like this video. Ring the bell so you get notified whenever I post a new video. And I'm trying to get over 100 subscribers. I'm 3/4 of the way there. So if you want to help contribute, please subscribe. Before I get into the pros and cons, I just want to give you a quick rundown of what the story is. Supergirl, she leaves her home planet because of some magical ball thingy that escapes, and it's their energy supply, and she almost feels the need to go down to Earth, retrieve it, and come back. And for whatever reason, while she's doing all these shenanigans, she ends up at a boarding school because she wants to experience the human connection just with other people and experience Earth more. And along the way, she comes across a love interest, and the villain in this movie is a witch who wants to use and control the magical ball. If that doesn't sound crazy to you guys, it is. So let's hop into the positives and let's see how I thought about it. So let's jump into the pros here. Helen Slater as Supergirl does a pretty good job. I mean, she is having to compete with Christopher Reeves, who was Superman at the time, and he's one of the most iconic superhero actors of all time. When people think of Superman, they think of Christopher Reeves. And I do think she does a good job of embodying a naive Supergirl, a girl that comes to this planet. She doesn't have a ton of experience with how the world works around her, and she's very curious. She wants to learn more about Earth and have an emotional connection with other people. And I think Helen Slater does a really good job in this movie. I also think the score was really well done in this movie too. John Williams, of course, composed the Superman score, which is just iconic. When everyone thinks of Superman, again, this is the score, and it's never been topped in any other Superman movie. And this movie, although it doesn't have the highs of that Superman score, it has that nice whimsical energy that's very complimentary to the Superman score. So you can watch that movie and then watch this movie, and you're like, oh wow, they really respected what John Williams did there. Whether the movie intended to be or not, this movie is very campy. It was entertaining enough for the first hour or so in this movie, and it was just, again, that whimsical energy. It's very infectious, and I was really into at least the first hour of this movie. I really liked just how Helen Slater communicated with her roommate when she actually gets to the boarding school that she ends up at. And even though that whole boarding school sequence, I'm going to talk about that later, I really love Lois Lane's, I believe, sister or cousin. The actress did a really great job, and she's very likable. So overall, there's some things to like about this movie, but there's so many things that there's no explanation as to why it had to be like this. Okay, so let's get into the cons here. This is 1984, and some of the special effects in this movie look awful. I mean, if you just look at the final battle scene where she's fighting this stone monster thing, and it almost is like she's getting stretched, that is one of the worst just visual effects I've ever seen in a movie like that. And that is a high budget movie for the time. They really hoped that this movie was going to be good and carry on the legacy with the Christopher Reeve Superman movies, and it's horrible. That the special effects throughout this movie, just her flying, looks so unnatural. I cannot give it any slack because this was years after these Christopher Reeves movies were actually, like, they mastered him being able to fly, and the visual effects over time looked a lot better. So I don't understand how it looks so crappy in this movie. How do we waste the whole idea and concept of Supergirl in this movie? Helen Slater, I really commended her because I think she does a good job just having the persona of Supergirl and what I would expect Supergirl to be like. But the writers did her no favor here. Who in the world would choose a witch out of everything you could choose? Why would you choose a witch to be the villain of a Supergirl movie? This witch is so irrelevant the entire time, and most of the scenes she's in, she's just like a nothing burger. And you don't really understand what her character motivations are other than just being evil. So, why in the world would you ever want to waste this idea and concept of Supergirl by using a witch as the villain? On top of that, not only do they just misuse this character in this movie by just having a totally random villain that makes no sense whatsoever, everything that Supergirl does in this movie is so lame. I mean, when she gets into Earth, right? She has to punch two people, two guys that are trying to harass her, which I thought that was good. That was a good introduction. But man, during this 2-hour movie, that it feels like forever, by the way, I thought it was going at a good pace, but it is so slow for the last hour because they've exhausted this idea of the witch. I just cannot believe that the extent of what we saw Supergirl doing was stopping a runaway tractor, which, come on, her fighting a stone monster that absolutely makes no sense, her flying just through the air, and it's the same film, whatever they filmed of her for like 20 seconds in her shoots, they continued to use the same flying motion over and over again. So you could just tell this video that you're seeing of her flying was already used earlier in the movie. So I cannot believe that we wasted the potential of Supergirl by not having her at least have a cool villain or doing cool stuff. Instead, you send her to boarding school where she's trying to go through all like the societal and teenage pressures of being at this boarding school. Meanwhile, everyone's trying to bully her while she's at the boarding school, and you barely see her that much in the actual Supergirl outfit. I would say she spends the same amount of time being in a stupid boarding school outfit and just doing these shenanigans in boarding school that make absolutely no sense. This plot overall is just nonsensical. I do not understand what went wrong or who let someone cook when they shouldn't have been in the kitchen. Maybe there's too many hands in the kitchen and they saw what's going on with maybe it's almost like a precursor to Star Wars and Harry Potter, and they were just trying to get all these things done. I don't know what was happening. I don't know what was happening here. I'm very disappointed by this movie, and this is probably the reason as to why I hadn't heard about it until I did research in preparation for the new Supergirl movie. But if you guys are into this type of content, please subscribe, like this video, and again, if you want to help me out, please subscribe because I'm almost to 100 subscribers. So my name is Kevin, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.